Okay, today at FoneFunShop I'm with one of our technicians, Mike. Today Mike's going to show you how to change a charging port on a Samsung Galaxy S7, but this is a bit different. Normally you'd take the screen out, which is quite a big risk of breaking the screen when you do that. So if you're a bit scared about breaking screens, what we're going to do is take the back off, and then we're going to remove the port from a new port on a flex and then replace the existing port. So we're going to solder the port from the new flex onto the old port flex. Okay, so to start with, we've Captain taped, heat resistant taped the flexes so nothing gets heat that shouldn't do. And I'm going to put you onto Mike now, who's going to show you where we go from here.
So first of all, what we do, put a soldering iron on to about 375, which would be enough heat in order to melt the solder, because solder melts at 200, but with the board taking off of the heat, then it would just basically help us out a lot. So first of all, what we do, we put a bit of solder on either side of it, because it's low melt solder, so this is going to make it come off a lot easier. Just 1 second, let me turn around that way so we can see it better. Then what we'll do is we'll put some flux on there, and then we're going to get his heat gun, set it to 350, and the air as low as possible as we can, so I'm going to put it on 30 so it's a bit of air.
Alright, so that quick station heat got up there really quickly.
Then I'm just going to pop it over the charging port, and the little blob of solder that I've put on either side, I want to wait to see that melt. Once this starts to melt, then I know that it's hot enough to start moving the charging port off. So gradually backwards and forwards gently. One side is ground, which would take more heat to heat it up, where the other side would be a lot faster to heat up. As you see, that one's heating up a lot faster than this side, which is not. So this side is ground, this is what's taking over the heat away from it. And you can see now it's starting to move a little bit, so gradually backwards and forwards.
So you're basically using that solder we put on earlier as indicators to know that the heat from the air gun's hot enough to remove that port.
And also what it's done as well is it's making the melting point of the old solder lower.
Okay.
Because factory solder would be leaded and basically have a high melting point. So as you can see, I can move it, and you can see it's starting to come off.
Nice.
So we're going to leave that to one side for a minute, then we're going to take the other one off now instead. So pop that to that side.
Now, do you still solder the points up on the new flex as well?
No. What we're going to do is we're going to take this flex off now, and then we're going to pop that onto the new board, but we're going to clean this one up first. This flex we can discard after we've done it.
Yeah.
So same again. We don't have to put any solder on the sides of it, because if we ruin this flex, it doesn't matter. We just want the port. So,
Gotcha. So the flex isn't important at all on here, is
no,
it? So
on this one it was.
yeah, because we don't want to tear tracks off.
That's right.
Okay.
Pop the heat back on it again. Put it into focus so I can see what I'm doing. And if you notice that I'm right-handed, so I'm using the heat gun in my left hand to transfer the heat, and then I'm going to pick it up with my right hand with a pair of tweezers. Always use your more stable hand to do the delicate work. like we know before, this side would be ground because this earth indicator there.
Yeah, and the ground took more heat basically to get it.
So what we do is you put the heat on the ground the most, because that's where it needs more heat in order to transfer it.
So do you basically use your tweezers to see if there's any movement on this mic without having these indicators?
Yes, I'm just wobbling it, and as you can see the solder start to bubble there.
Yeah.
And with that bubbling, I know that side's hot enough. I can just gradually knock it about and see if it's moving. What you've got to be careful of is this will heat up fast, but these pins behind the back won't. So if you pull it off too early, you're going to break all the tracks behind the back of the charging port or on the flex itself. Which we don't want to do. So as you see, I'm moving it about, I can see it move, and now I can grab it. So I'll just hold my tweezers.
Okay, nice. So we've got that charging port off there.
And now we know that this is the new one that I'm going to save.
Okay.
And I'm going to drop it. And then the old port and the new flex we can discard or use components of it at a later date.
Yeah, we don't need that. Okay, so other than preparation of caps and heat resistant tape, is there any other preparation that you did, Mike, on the phone's original flex before we attach that new port?
Well, now what I've got to do is make sure that all these pins aren't damaged on the new port.
Okay.
So pop it in the microscope.
Okay, let's have a look.
And have a look. Just let me zoom into that. So as you can see, all these pins are perfect. Then I need to go back to the original flex and I need to tidy it up a little bit first. Make sure there's nothing touching together, like these two touching
Yeah, I can
here.
see that.
And then I also need to change this solder for low melt solder, so it makes it easier to put back on. So what I'll do, grab my soldering iron.
Again, do you leave that on 375 degrees?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
You can put it slightly higher to make it melt faster, but I don't need to. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply solder to the board.
So you don't need to put any flux on or anything first, it's going to take...
No, it's still got flux.
From where we removed the original port?
Yes, and there's still flux inside the solder itself as well.
Ah, yeah.
So what I'm going to do, just coat every pin that I can. I'm going to put a few together as well, just to show you how easy it is.
I say they're quite nicely tinned up now, aren't they?
They are, but there's two touching together there, which I've done on purpose.
Yep,
And
okay.
now what I'm going to do, just add a bit more flux to it and make the solder stick to the iron. So clean my iron. Then if I get this again, I just move it along, you can see I can drag the solder into nice little shiny balls.
Yeah. Would you ever use a solder wick to do that, to help, if there was way too much on?
You can use solder wick as well, or you could use a solder sucker. So now that that's all been prepared, except for this one.
Yeah,
Which I've just seen.
just seen that.
That's all prepared now that I can put this charger.
Okay, so we've got, just to clarify, we've got 3 small pads there, and then at the top and bottom we've got slightly larger pads. They're not too joined up.
So there and there. And I can clean this up a little bit to show you, but then I'm going to remove the flux that I need.
That you need to do the job,
So
yeah.
I'm going to clean it and then I'll reapply flux again.
Okay.
Just to show you. So we get us alcohol.
Oh, okay. Now that alcohol dispenser just gives you a little bit in the top to stop it all evaporating.
Now what we've got to make sure of is, on here, there's a microphone that's been taped up there.
Let me
You
see.
can see where my fingernail is. If you look on this one here, I'll show you. This is the original. There's a microphone there taped up.
Yep.
Now the problem you've got is when I'm cleaning this section here, if this alcohol goes into this microphone, it will stop the microphone from working.
Right, okay.
So we've got to be real cautious on how it's done. So what we do is we use gravity.
You sort of lift it up and away.
What I do is I normally tilt it to one side and
Yeah.
down a little bit, and as I'm cleaning, it's dropping away from it.
That's a good tip.
Then just turn the cotton bud round the other way, clean this side up.
Yeah, it's a lot clearer now you've given that a clean, isn't it? I can see.
Just make sure that nothing's touching together. So one final inspection first of all. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we can see here that nothing's touching any of these little components. All these look nice and clean and tidy. They've got enough solder on it, so when I heat it up, and this is low melt, this is going to melt at 200 degrees. So now I can turn the heat gun down if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave it at the same temperature, and it's going to be a little bit faster to heat up, and I just have to place it on gently.
Yeah, I suppose you get used to your own temperatures in your own preferred way of working, really.
It's all based on the actual logic board, depending on how thick the logic board is, depends on how much heat you need, because the heat transfer would go elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So heat gun on again, back at the same temperature again, 350 with 30 air, just low air. The tiniest little bit of flux in the middle of it, there, because once I apply the heat, it's going to make it blow everywhere I need to go. Now what I do is I make sure the heat blows away from the microphone.
Yeah, so it's still got to be conscious about that microphone.
This microphone's here, and I've got to make sure that the heat is always blowing away from it, so you look, it's pointing at an angle. Then what I do is I get my charging port hooked in ready.
So notice you're using an angled nozzle as well. Does that make it easier for when working with the scope?
It does, yeah. If you're using just a straight nozzle, sometimes the scope can interfere with it.
It's because you're having to hold the handle up to get it to aim down. Yeah, got it.
So what I'm wanting to do now, I'll just pop this charging port back down again. I'm wanting to see this solder start to turn a different colour and start to bubble. Once it starts to bubble, I know it's the right temperature. So at the moment, this flux is keeping it all nice and hot, but this will turn into like soft, like putty. And once it does that, then I know it's hot enough, you know, to do it. So I'm just going to put it a little bit closer. And as you see, that one's starting to turn a different colour compared to this. That means that's heating up to the right temperature. And I just need to gradually just move backwards and forwards. And you can see this one's doing it.
You can see it all going now.
That and that.
So you do that before the port's in place then?
Yep. So we do this, and then what we do, we grab hold of the port, as I'm doing. I gradually try and place it on as gently as I can. And now it's time to move it into place. And as you see, it will seat itself where it needs to be. And all I'm doing is I'm just using gentle pressure just to hold it in place a little bit. And as I push down, you can see certain bits of solder pop out from sides.
They're mainly the tack down parts, though, aren't they, to keep a firm?
They are, yeah. I release the
firm
heat,
connection to the board.
I count to 10. After 10 seconds, you'll see the solder change a different colour and go like a little bit dull. As you can see down in this bottom corner here, it went dull.
It's gone more like a matte finish, hasn't it now?
And now all I need to do is just start to clean up this solder that's here.
So again, do you just use the same temperature, the 375, even though it's on low melt, to do that?
Yep. So I can just grab that with my soldering iron and start to clean it up. But this part I would clean up after I put it back in the phone. So now what I've got to do is I've got to make sure that all these pins are sat flush. Now you can see from there though that there's a blob of solder there that's slightly a little bit too big. This one is starting to blob out, but if I test these pins, none of them should move. If they move, then that means solder right. So that one doesn't move, that one doesn't move, that one doesn't move, but it's got a bit of solder that may touch this pin together. So we're going to clean that up in a minute. This one don't move, this one don't move, but it's got a blob of solder there.
When you're applying that pressure there to see if it moves, which sort of direction are you heading there, Mike?
I'm trying to make it move left and right.
Ah, okay. It's just a bit difficult to see because it's not moving.
Yep. So because it's a strand of like a pin that's coming from top to bottom, I'm trying to move it left and right. If it moves left and right, then I know this timing solder right.
Okay.
So now I need to clean this little blob of solder here. I need to clean this one up as well. All these look intact. None of this is touching, so you can't see none of this solder touching these little.
Yeah, so you've got nothing sort of between. Yeah.
Nope. It's just basically a clean up of this and this, and then away we go.
Okay, how would you go about cleaning that up then?
First of all, you can use flux by applying flux to it and then using the soldering iron. Now remember, I'm leaving the captain tape on because I've got an FPC connection here that I don't want to damage with the heat. If I touch that with the heat, it's going to ruin it. So what I'll do is I'll just prop this up the best way I can.
So is captain tape, I can see that tape's overlapping that FPC port, but does it need to have overlap quite a lot to offer protection it needs, or is it just literally?
Well, because I was
is that enough basically?
Yeah, because I've put 2 layers, but when I was using the soldering iron and the heat gun, I was pointing it away from that. I was always pointing it away from this microphone and in that direction there.
Yeah, okay.
That makes it not put heat into this part and go underneath it.
Yeah, makes sense.
If I put it this way,
then you're blowing the heat directly at it, aren't you?
Directly at it.
It's going to get under.
So this solder ball would have gone underneath it.
Yeah.
So now what I'm going to do is just gradually just try and grab that. If I can't grab it, I'm going to use it. So because it's on the soldering iron now, so let me pop that down 1 second. Just need to apply a bit more water to this. It's just dried up. Having this slightly damp makes it easier to clean your tip, and it's always better to have a clean tip, so solder sticks to it.
Always clean your tip, Michael.
Good tip for you. So now that I apply that back to it, I can see the solder starting to bubble. I let go, it's back on perfect.
Yeah.
And so that one's done. I know these don't need doing, but just for reassurance, I'm going to do it with each one. Making sure that I've got a steady hand and I'm not touching.
Is that the standard tip that comes with the quick soldering iron?
There's different quick soldering iron tips. We've got angled ones, flat blade ones, curved tip. I use the curved tip one because it's easier. I can I can pull the solder to one side and it'll stick on the actual tip itself.
Yeah.
So now with this solder being touching to this side, I need to push it to that side.
Yep.
If that makes any sense. So what I'll do is I'll just heat it up gradually best I can. And I'm going to try and move it over this side a little bit. Now that looks like it's still going to be a bit too much. So what I'll do is I'll put it on this side. And then I'm going to gradually just move across. And that's stuck them together, which is not a problem. So what we're going to do, apply a bit more flux.
I think it's better when we're making a video like this where you can see problems you can encounter and see how to fix them, rather than everything going perfect.
If it went perfect, it's not real life.
No.
So heat both of them two up together.
It's a stubborn little one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Let me position this a little bit more now. I just need something to wedge it up a little bit to give me a little bit more leverage. So what I'm going to do now, that's there. I'm going to use a different technique. We're using a pair of tweezers.
Okay.
And what I do here is I put the tweezers in between the joint, and as I apply the soldering iron to the solder, I'm going to move the tweezers down the middle and start to separate. Notice that moved it, so it started to move it a little bit. The problem you've got is you don't want to damage this FPC.
Yeah, it's very close, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Right, sticking to them all. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back and I'm going to get the heat gun back on it again in order to help me just apply a bit more heat to it.
Okay.
Just going to manoeuvre it so I can see properly. Just use this non-slip mat. Okay, so what I need to do now is I'm going to use the heat of this to try and move them apart. It should heat up a lot faster. As you can see, I've just moved it from one side to the other side, so I'm going to try to aim for this big pin to take all the solder. So I've moved one, let it set, so it's set solid. Then I'm going to do the same again. Then move it from this side onto the other pin that I want it to go on. So gradually, and there we go.
Alright, so you move the excess onto the larger pin.
Just to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So if you look now, I'll zoom into that.
Yeah, you got no joins, have you? That's good. So again, are you just checking if there's any movement on them?
So I'll check again. None, none, none. None at all. I look at this FPC. Nothing's been burnt, damaged. All the components are still haven't been moved. This is solid. I can't move it anywhere.
Okay.
At all.
Good recovery.
And now's the time to put it back together.
Alright, so basically is it just a case of putting the back on?
It's a case of letting this part cool down. Once it's cool, pull this tape off. If you pull it off too fast, the components could still be heated up and you could pull off with the capstan tape.
So it's a bit of common sense really, just take your time and let it cool down.
Normally it takes probably about 30 seconds to a minute for it to cool down. And if you look, what I've done is underneath this I've used some special heat resistant mat, a little piece of it, to stop it from burning the frame and going into the screen itself.
Yep.
And now all we need to do is pop this back into the actual frame itself by just gradually moving it like that, and then you just push to one side a little bit and to the other side.
So the beauty of it being on a flex is advantageous for
it is, but if you pull this flex too hard you can break the ribbons on either side of the board, so you've got to gradually and gently move them out, pop it back into place, pop the microphone back into place. That's the part that we didn't want to get the flux inside. Then what we'll do is we clip the battery connections back in because it was off, and then we go over to our tester and we'll test it. So we've got our tester plugged in. Here we go. This is a dual cable one. We need the micro side of it. I'm going to plug it in and let's see the moment of truth.
It's definitely recognised the charger connected.
And there we go. It's all charging again. Now the only thing I need to do now is pop these two little connections back on here and here. Put these screws back in, put the plate back on, glue the back cover back on, and we've just changed a charging port from a flex onto the actual board without the screen breaking, without having to lift the screen up.
Yep. I mean, we can do this job by lifting screen up, but there is just that element of risk, and if the customer doesn't want to take that risk, then neither do we. So we offer this option instead. It's just a bit safer. It's a little bit more work for us, but you know, as you can see where we did that one, there's a little bit longer with the solder bridging, but when we've been working with phones for this long, we know how to handle any situation that sort of comes across. So that's pretty much it. All the tools that you've seen, like the quick soldering station and the quick rework station, the scope, the camera, they're all available to purchase on our website, FoneFunShop.com. I hope we've enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe even share. Thanks for watching, and thanks Mike.